Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Jason's Take On podcast series with myself, Jason Noble, here in a blue skies London. The skies are getting clearer, and my counterpart, Jason Whitehead, over in the USA. Say hello, Jason.
Hi, everyone.
We are thrilled today to have yet another, dare I say, infamous customer success guest with us on today to talk about all good things about scaling customer success, but scaling it successfully. We've had a couple of really good conversations recently, but we've got another one today, and I'm really proud to welcome Kristi Faltorusso to our podcast today. Kristi, say hello to everyone and welcome.
Hello, everyone. I am thrilled to be here, and what a topic for us. Everyone is talking about scaling, so I can't wait to jump right in.
It seems to come up in every single conversation you have. And now, just for our audience members and listeners who don't know Kristi, she's an award-winning customer success executive with a lot of experience building, scaling, and really transforming customer success organizations at that kind of startup and hyper-growth stage. So a lot of what overlaps with all what we're all doing, the organizations we're in. And she's spent probably the last 10 plus years helping organizations really redefine what customer success really means, and being really an instrumental thought leader. There's a lot of amazing content that you put out there, Kristi, that I'm a huge fan of. And we are so excited to have you here. You've got a lot of great experience with other organizations. You've built, led teams and managed the executive teams, I think at Brighthead, Sisense, Better Cloud, IntelliShift, and now at Client Success, where I know I've had conversations with you. But you also do a lot of work outside of your day job as well. And you put together what you call Keeping Customer Success Simple, which is your own blog, your own services there that really, but it says it in a nutshell, but it is, how do we simplify this? Because I think we have a problem where we all do overcomplicate this, and having someone that's leading that. So I'm super excited. As we said, the topic is how do we scale customer success? But before we dig into that, Kristi, let me go ahead and please introduce yourself. Let us, for our listeners that don't know who you are, give a few more details about you, what you're doing, and your passions as well.
I don't know, Jason, like you nailed it. That was the best intro anyone's ever given me. I might take you on my next job interview.
Oh.
All right. So Kristi Faltorusso, I'm currently the Vice President of Customer Success at Client Success, which is a customer success management software. We help our customers from what we say new to renew. So from that initial onboarding, post-sale process, all the way through that entire lifecycle management. Been here for just about a year. It'll be a year next month. I'm super pumped. And I have the privilege and honor of working with a ton of different customer success organizations, helping them do what we're going to talk about today, which is think about how do they build, transform, but scale their efforts.
I think that all of those are hard to do. And I think the scaling bit is the hardest, because every organization, in your work at Client Success with these incredible organizations and really hyper growth organizations, how do you go about helping them really understand what they need to do about customer growth and scale for their customer success team? So how do you go about helping define what they need to do?
Yeah, so I think we definitely take a very interesting approach just because of the size and who we serve. Our ICP of customers are that small to mid-size organization who are usually in that foundational stage of building and putting some process around customer success, operationalizing their business. So we lean in from a more consultative approach. It's not about the technology. It's about learning about where they are, why they're in a place that they need to change what they've been doing, and what that change looks like through their eyes. And then we lean in very much from the standpoint of, we're going to help you design and define what those processes and best practices need to look like. And with a very iterative mindset, we don't build something and say, okay, great, this is set it and forget it. This is going to be your program forever. Through our technology and through the partnership, it's this ongoing consultation of, great, is this working? Is it really moving the needle? Is it having the impact on the metrics? And we take that approach. So it's a lot of listening and learning that we have the bandwidth and the, I think, infrastructure right now to support.
Do you find that consultative approach works? Because there's a lot of organizations that would look to you and say, tell us how to do it. And it is, like you say, it's iterative. It changes all the time. But do you find there's any challenges with using that approach, or does it seem to fit with customers?
So I think our customers, because they are earlier in stage, they're not at a place of hyper growth, right? Where they're hiring hundreds of thousands of employees in customer success. They're still trying to figure it out. So they rely on us to be that benchmark of like what good looks like, because it's what they need. And it's a service that we can provide. A lot of it is through the lens of what we're doing. So it's not you can iterate on it, because it's really easy to say, well, here's how we do customer success at client success, and here's how we can modify this to meet what it is that you do in your organization. And so it feels very consultative, but it scales because it's very templated based off of what our infrastructure looks like.
Right. That's a great one. So what do you see are some of the key challenges that your organizations are facing when they're going through the scaling phase, especially those that are going through the hypergrowth phase? And I guess related to that, is there a difference between what you would the typical organization trying to scale versus a hypergrowth organization?
Yes, I would say the hypergrowth ones, it's like everything needed to be done yesterday. So I would say time and speed in which you've got to put all those pieces of the puzzle together. But I'd say the biggest challenge, honestly, is folks don't know what they don't know. And there's a lot of reliance that people think that the best way to scale is just through technology and automation and this push of content, and don't realize that there is a whole ton of different avenues that you can go through and should be approaching and thinking through when you think about what scale looks like and how that feels for your customers.
I think in one of the webinars that you did recently of client success, you talked about the partnership kickoff framework. I love the idea of that. And Jason and I have talked before about that transition from sales to onboarding to customer success is an area that I think a lot of businesses really struggle with still. Could you share some of your insights for how organizations can go about doing this better and how they can use that to help scale? And then also give a bit more insight into kind of your partnership kickoff framework.
Absolutely. So you hit on my favorite thing to talk about ever. It's I think it's one of the few programs that I've developed that I think does translate to almost any business, and it really has a ton of impact. So what we did is, for years, I'm sure you guys have seen, most companies, you go from paperwork is signed, great, let's get you started, let's build your product and just run. And I get that, right? There's this huge need to just put a lot of velocity around that and get people moving. There's that time to value KPI that people talk about, and it feels so intense and so really just want to get to it. And so after years of doing that, I was like, no, we're doing it wrong. I said, we miss so much learning that feels really awkward to go and have these conversations when you're 3, 4, 5 months into the partnership. So I was like, we're going to slow down to speed up, and we're going to actually have the right conversation with our customers from day one. So I created what we call our partnership kickoff model. And this is an executive level conversation where we require the executive stakeholders, key decision makers, even influencers that are part of the partnership to join from the customer standpoint. And from our side, we bring our account team. And so that's usually the CSM, the AE who's a part of it. If we had anyone from solutions or consulting, they'd be present. And then hopefully the executive stakeholder, which would be myself, for example. We come together in a conversation that has a very formal structure. The decks and the frameworks that I create are very easily repeatable. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The deck has 5 modifications, if I'm being honest. But prior to that kickoff, we do send a survey out to our customers where we ask a lot of very pointed questions. Why us? Why now? What are you trying to do? What are your goals? What are your objectives? How do they map back to our partnership? And we use that to facilitate a very good conversation. That's what it is. It's alignment. We set proper expectations. We understand who they are, why they exist, why they're focused on customer success. What does it look like in their business? What does that program look like? And then we dive a bit into, what their goals are. How do we support them? So what are they expecting from us? What do we expect from them? There's a lot of that. And then we spend a lot of time talking through change management. I'll be very honest with you. We want to make sure that our customers are very clear that by deploying technology, this does not solve your problems. And so your organization is going to fundamentally go through some change. And this is what it's going to look like. Here's a small piece that your technology provider will play in this overarching change, and how we're going to partner with you through that, how we can support you. We go into what onboarding will look like, because we do want to set that stage. And we really just kind of wrap up with what are our next steps, right? Where do we go from here? And there's a lot of pieces that happen in between there, but I'm not going to get into that. If you want to watch my bootcamp webinar on that, you can absolutely go check it out. But yeah, it reframes the partnership. You don't go right into the technology. It's what are we doing here together? What is the purpose, and how are we going to be successful?
Do you find if you do that survey, is there any customers that might get frustrated because they might think, well, we've gone through the sales process with the AE, we've given this information already? Or are the questions phrased in such a way that it's not positioned like that?
Yeah, I don't think so, because it really does. We go into bits and pieces of their customer success program. For example, I'll ask something, do you have a customer success journey? And then usually it's going to be 1 or 2 answers, yes or no, or it's in the works, right? And then I ask, what role do you see client success playing in the creation of your customer success journey?
Okay.
I also want to know how much they're expecting us to help guide them. So we're having the right conversation, that we come prepared and we know where they are when we go into deploying these things into our solution. So I don't think that there's a ton of overlap, maybe a couple questions, but I think the customers understand that this information is super valuable and will allow us to tailor the conversations we have to be more productive.
I love the way you've called it a partnership framework as well, because that sets from the outset what you're trying to do. This isn't a short-term thing, and it sets you up for success when you want to scale. You've got to get those foundations right at the beginning. If they're not right, you can't scale. It's that simple.
Yeah, I love what you're saying too. We, in our group, we do a go slow to go fast piece, which is both like that, but part of it is intentionally designed to build trust and really get to know, make a connection with the other people first. And our 3 steps are, make the connection with them and really build trust and get to understand how to communicate with them. And there's so many times talking with customers, you just go right past each other if you don't invest that time. And then we talk some about what's our collaboration process? How are we going? Who's going to be in the room? What's it going to look like? And then the very third part is the content, really, okay, let's tell me about your business and how we're going to work together and all that other stuff. And I think when people skip that and go right into the tech or the process, so many things come back to bite you in the ass later that it always gets you. But I'm curious though, when you have those calls with your partnership framework as well too, how often are you finding a disconnect within the client side itself? The executive said one thing, but you heard something very different during the sales process, or the people down the line didn't have a clue what the executive was expecting through this process?
I think for us, we're a bit unique. Like I said, we're selling to mid-market for the most part. So the organizations are smaller. They're not your 20,000 person enterprise companies where definitely there's a game of telephone and things are getting lost in translation. So I don't think that we have that problem, but I could definitely see at scale and in other organizations where I've worked with larger customers, there is sometimes a disconnect, right? Because the buyer is not sitting down justifying what they're doing and why they're doing it to the rest of the team that's going to go and execute it, which is why I think bringing these teams together in this type of a conversation, hopefully in a very disarming way, brings people together to be collaborative and all get on the same page. Because when you're not together having that proper conversation, there's a lot of later finger pointing and he said, she said, and oh, I'm not getting support. This way, get everyone in the same room, get everyone on the same page, and you can effectively move forward.
Yep, absolutely.
That alignment is so critical. And it does, again, it's building it up from day one. In the experience that you've had, you mentioned earlier on kind of about people think technology and automation is what you need to scale. It's not, it's a lot more. But what are some of the challenges and kind of gotchas that you've seen and mistakes you've seen organizations make when they try to scale but don't do it successfully?
One, people try to scale without having a program, a well thought out program of what is it that we're doing? What are the messages? What is the customer experience? I just, we could break those all down into their own individual challenges, but I just think people move very quickly because there is a mandate that is coming top down to scale. And for folks that haven't scaled properly and effectively before, they just think it's okay, go push a bunch of stuff. We're just going to go and we're doing this and we're taking people out of the equation. We're going to try to do more with less. And they're not giving a lot of thought to creating a very comprehensive experience for their customers from start to finish. And so I would say the lack of focus around that would be my faux pas number one.
Number two?
Number two, I think, is then going to be
give us your top 10.
proper hand. That one's a meaty one. But I would say the second one definitely probably comes down to not getting cross-functional support and realizing that in order to have a successful scale program, actually to have an effective customer success program, period, you have to have everyone bought in and supporting you. But especially when you're thinking about scaling, right? In a lot of cases, you are maybe removing a lot of the human or manual work that was required otherwise. When you are automating things, you're doing things at scale, meaning maybe there's one-to-many programs, things like that. Pull in marketing, right? Customer marketing has to be a very big part of this program. Your support team, right? If you don't have a CSM who's talking to your customer once a week, support issues are going to come up, right? That might mean an increase in volume with your support queue. How are things going to be happening with any part of your business? It amplifies the need for everyone to be involved and to have the ability to scale with you. It is not just scale in a silo with CS. And most people think, oh, I'm creating a customer scale program. And so that's me and my organization. And it's definitely not.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, that it does fundamentally for customer success. We've got to be collaborative. This is a cross organization function, but when you start to scale, it becomes even more critical. When you've got a very small number of customers, you can probably manage with a more siloed approach, but as you scale, it just doesn't work. It absolutely doesn't work. And I love the way you talked about that program as well, because you've got to think longer term. Where are we trying to get to? What do we need to do? Not just, yes, you need to scale. What does that mean? Double the number of, you've got to think it through. What are we trying to get to? Where's the outcome here?
Jason, that's my faux pas number 3. People don't have the proper KPI. They don't know what they're like. What does success look like for this program? How are we measuring it? How do we know it's effective? People are just literally going into this blind and doing a whole bunch of stuff. It's bad and it's horrible.
Without that,
and they don't know that it's bad because they're not looking at data that's telling them it's not good.
It's almost not to do with scale, but you still get organizations creating customer success because they think they need to do it, but not why they do it. We've all been there. We've all seen these challenges. And it's you can't scale unless you get any of these basics. I think too many organizations try to scale too quickly before they've got these fundamentals in place.
Kristi, I'm wondering, I've worked with a lot of organizations and you meet some folks there, whether it's the CEO or someone else at the executive level, and you're like, okay, they really get it. There's going to be the little ups and downs of any program and we'll get through them. It's going to be wonderful. And then there's others you can just sniff out, this is not going to, and it's not just with us, just this is not going to go well for them because of some misconceptions they have or lack of resources they're willing to commit or other things. Along the line of your faux pas, what are the things that make you sniff out that these people might have unreasonable expectations or are going to struggle through this process?
I think it's along the lines of the questions. When we dig in, whenever it gets down to it, is right. There's the companies that I join where I, as a leader, am sitting in an organization where I'm running into that issue, which I think we've all met that CEO at some point in our career. And this is why I leave companies, is when I feel like I'm justifying my job and my existence every day. After a certain amount of time of education and enablement up, I have to just move on, right? I need to be successful. So that is how I will handle that as an individual. When it comes into supporting organizations, we do a lot of this discovery, right? I talked about the questions we ask in the survey and the partnership kickoff, as well as conversations that I have or Dave Blake, our CEO, might have independently with the executive stakeholders. We dig in and we ask a lot of questions with them. And when we hear for little red flags, right? Usually those things are around inflated KPI improvement numbers over short periods of time, dismissive statements around the value output of the work that we do, right? Like for folks that have been in a while, you know what those little red flags are. When we hear those, we definitely pause. We try to unpack it with them. And if there's a gap in understanding, we do try to educate and enable. But I will tell you, not everyone wants to hear that. Right, because absolutely. The work that we do does take a lot of time and resource and technology. And it's, if you don't want to invest in it, if you don't believe in it, it's God, right? That Jesus isn't for everybody. Like, neither is customer success. So you either get it, you believe it, you don't. And it's like, I don't know, I'm not a very religious person, but like customer success, I believe in customer success and I know it works and I get it, but it's not for everybody. So that's okay. They're going to try to figure out a way to get there. They're going to take a different path, and that's their journey. But we do try to educate. We do try to help, and we do try to support our leaders in helping them evangelize and tell that narrative up. But it's you know, seeing is believing for a lot of people. So unless they have seen it or heard it from their peers that this is what you do and it works really well, we need more success stories to amplify that, so more CEOs and more executives are bought into the work that we do.
Absolutely. Oh, I love what you're saying there. I've had some of those clients where you're like, right, there's only so much you can do to protect people from themselves. You help them where you can. And for me anyways, it's been, you can sometimes see the car wreck in slow motion. What's going to come? How can I be a bit of an airbag here? How can I prevent this a little bit so that the next time after we get through this, they'll believe me a little bit more next time, and hopefully it'll get them where they need to be. But it's definitely a challenge.
It's really tough.
The frustration as well is sometimes you have to go through it several times with the same organization to actually see it, and it does it in almost, it's an iterative thing in itself, that education process.
I will say one thing that I get and I understand, but it breaks my heart a little bit, is when I have other VPs or even chief customer officers or chief operating officers or whatever their role is come to me to ask me to speak to their CEO, and I'm saying the same thing that they are. But all of a sudden you have the third party or somebody outside their organization to repeat it like a parrot. And all of a sudden it's, oh yeah, did you hear what this person said? And the poor executive that you hired that you trusted in your organization to come in said the same thing and you didn't want to hear it. That to me is, it's very common and very disappointing.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I'd be interested in hearing, as kind of customer success leaders and execs, how do we bring our teams along this scaling journey? Because that your individual teams, it can be quite challenging. There's a big period of change they're going through, but and it can quite a bumpy ride for them. So what are some of the insights you can give into how you can help your own teams to go through that scaling journey?
So my favorite thing to say is that people want change to happen with them, not to them. So I pull my team in. Quite frankly, my team knows our customers better than I do. They're the ones speaking to them every day. They're the one engaging. They're hearing the product requests, the pain points. They're hearing what works, what's successful. I would be silly to think that I would be more in tune with designing what my customers need to scale than bring them along for the ride. But as a leader, I don't like to delegate by saying, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. So I tell the team, here's what we're working on. These are the projects. If there's something that's of interest to you that you feel like you've got some level of expertise around or an area of interest, lean into it and let's work together. And so they're opting in to doing the work that creates these programs that are more effective because they were a part of it, and they're more likely to adopt it and evangelize it to their peers. And that has always been a very successful practice for me. It gets them to do work as a leader. They get to lead from a point of non-leadership and get a little taste of what that feels like. They've built the product, the process, it's theirs. They put their name on it. They feel good. And honestly, from my standpoint, the benefit to me, I go focus on the other thing, right? Like we can divide and conquer. So I think if you've got, hopefully you're hiring smart, capable people. If they're not smart and capable, why do you hire them? Empower them to go do great work with you. So I'm big on just pull the team along with.
Getting that buy-in is so important as well. And like you say, get them to do things that they want to do. Be part of the journey, I think, is super, super important. Kristi, look, this has been such an amazing conversation. We could go on for hours, and I have no doubt we'll invite you back to talk about more of these. We've already picked up on a few things that we could dig into. A big thank you for coming on and speaking with us. One thing we always ask our guests to do, we give them what we call a bold challenge question. And the one we'd like to give you is, what do you see as the biggest challenge today when it comes to scaling success, customer success, and scaling it successfully? So the one biggest challenge.
I'm going to say is my faux pas number 2 is trying to do this in a silo, not working collaboratively, not getting that proper buy-in. And I'm going to emphasize one area: build out customer marketing. Do not try to use the same marketing tactics that work for building prospects at your customers. Design a program that's exclusively for them, and that will help you scale like nothing.
We've not yet done a podcast about customer marketing, but it's something that we've spoke before, Jess. But
I'll raise my hand. I want to come back. I want to come back.
Awesome. Would love to have.
Kristi, I'm so tempted to talk for another 30 minutes on this, right? Because it's so it's so big. Because people, just organizations, we've got a marketing team. Have you got a customer marketing team? And it's such a different stance. Look, we will take you up on this. We're going to do another podcast on this because it's something that, again, organizations just aren't doing. They're not investing. A massive, massive thank you. This has been a fantastic conversation, and I think really insightful for all of us. So a big thank you from us.
Yes, thank you so much. And before you go, please give a shameless plug for
sorry, I forgot that.
Initiative of your choosing or your organization, whatever you're in the mood to shamelessly plug. We'd love to hear it.
Okay, shameless plugs. Here we go. I'm going to shamelessly plug myself first. So if you aren't following me, if we're not friends, if we've not spoken before, please go follow me on LinkedIn. I would love to engage with you, have a conversation, virtual cup of coffee, maybe catch you at an event. Because in person is happening, guys. I don't know if you know this, but it's coming back. It's like exciting. My other shameless plug: if you don't have a customer success solution and you do need one, you think you might need one, you need one in the future, please come check out Client Success. I'd love to give you a demo of our solution. And my last shameless plug will be for my personal brand website, Keeping CS Real. Keeping CS simple, and it's all about the simplification, as Jason mentioned earlier, of customer success best practices. Let's stop overcomplicating things, break things down, make it easier, and make everyone more successful.
Love it.
Fantastic.
Absolutely love it.
Absolutely love that.
And links will be in the description below. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.